YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Leo with another video for you guys today. Today, the topic of discussion is interest rates. So, interest rates, I'm sure that's a very relevant topic for most of you guys, since I assume most of you are in college. And for those of you who are preparing for college, well, get ready for it. So, when it comes to calculating interest rates, the general formula is as follows, right? So basically you take the amount of money owed and you multiply that by itself plus the interest rate. And you raise that to the number of years that the interest has been accruing. So y. Okay, so that would be the general formula. So let's do an example. Suppose you owe $100,000 and you're trying to figure out how much money are you going to owe it at the end of the year, given that your loan supplier is charging you a annual interest rate of 10%. How much would you owe at the end of the year? Well, we just go ahead and use our formula here. So we're starting off all borrowing $100,000. So $102 by itself. And the interest rate is 10%. So 10% will be 0.1. Okay, and we're just trying to see how much we will owe after 1 year. So a year was just 1, so that's just raised to 1 power. Okay, what would that equal? Well, after 1 year, we will owe $110,000, right? Okay. So it's pretty simple, right? Okay. However, there's an incompleteness with this equation here. Okay? Because this equation here assumes that interest is accrued at the end of the year. Now, most loan suppliers do not wait for the end of the year before they charge interest on your loan. In fact, a lot of them accrue interest on a daily basis. For example, student loan accrue interest on a daily basis. Credit card interest, they charge interest every month, as you guys know. Okay. So imagine student loan. Imagine you have a loan again for $100,000, but they decide that they won't wait for the end of the year before they charge interest. They're going to charge interest every 6 months. Okay, so for 1 year, they're going to compound interest twice. One in June and the other one in December. So in December, how much money will you owe if, again, you borrowed $100,000 at the beginning of the year? Okay, so we will have to modify this equation here. Now, what's this equation for compounded interest? Well, it's very similar. Again, it's going to be the amount owed times itself, 1, plus, now we're going to take the interest rate and we're going to divide it by the number of times that is compounded per year. And if you're going to compound interest every 6 months, then that means you're going to be compounding interest twice per year. So I'm going to take the interest rate, which is the 10% interest rate, and divide it by 2. And because we're going to be compounding this interest twice in the year, we're going to raise it to a power of 2 times the number of years of accrued interest. So after 1 year, how much money would you owe if, again, you borrowed $100,000 at the beginning of the year? Okay, that would be $100,000 okay, times 1 plus the 10% interest divided by 2 raised to the second power, because you're going to be doing it twice per year. So at the end of the year, this equals $110,000 and $250. You see? So if you look at that, basically you borrowed the same amount of money at the same interest rate, but because here they compounded interest rate twice per year, you end up owing an extra $250. You see? And that is a lesson there, where the more frequently that interest rate is compounded, the more money you're going to owe at the end of the year. So whenever you borrow money at a certain interest rate, you must ask your loaner, well, how often do you compound the interest rate? Because that's going to matter in terms of how much interest you accrue over the term of that loan. Okay? So definitely always check to make sure that you know how often interest rate is compounded. Because for most student loan interest rate, it is compounded every day. So that's 365 times for the year. So let's take a look at what that would equal for this same $100,000 that we're going to borrow. So if I borrowed again $100,000 for the year, but interest rate is every day, which is 365 days for the year, that would be 1 plus, I'll take the interest rate and I have to divide it by 365 and raise it to 365 power. Now what does that equal? Well, that's going to be equal to $110,000 and then $516. See that? So if interest rate is compounded twice a year, you ended up owing an extra $250. If it's compounded every day for the year, you end up owing an extra $516. You see how that works? Now, here's a bonus tip for you guys. What if a company just decides that, well, you know what? I'm going to be compounding interest at all times. Continuous interest compounded. What would that look like? Well, that would basically be the limit. Take what you owe, taking your interest rate, 10%, and we're going to divide that by basically a number n, raise it to that number n, and then we're going to do the limit as n goes to infinity. Okay, so for your calculus student, what would this be? What does this result in as n goes to infinity? Something that you should know, okay? Well, if you don't know, that's basically e to the x, okay? That's e to the x, e raised to this power here. So that would be equal to the $100,000 that we owe times e raised to the 0.1. Okay, and if we plug that into our calculator, we will get $110,000, $517. Okay, so the moral of the story here is that knowing the interest rate itself is not enough. You must know how often interest rate is compounded, because it's going to make a difference. And the more frequently interest rate is compounded, the more interest build up at the end of the year. So you can have an interest rate that's 7%, and then you can have another company that offers you an interest rate of 6%. Well, you might go, well, I'm going to go with the 6% because that's lower. Well, not too fast, because you must ask how often is the interest rate compounded, okay? And you can use these equations to see how much interest that you will accrue over a given amount of time. Okay? All right, so I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you're new to this channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button on the bottom and hit that bell so that way we can continue to learn and grow together. Okay? Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.